Meanwhile, in Russia, March 2nd, 2023, the update of important news from Russia. Among other important news, you will find Russian government starts waging war on Russian statistics. Food stamps introduced. Revenues from oil and gas plummet, and that's official. Howdy everyone. Let's jump right into the news. One of Russia's largest food supermarket chains, Peterochka, just announced that it's ready to start accepting food stamps. Well, they call it electronic certificates. They think it sounds less diminishing and more respectable, but food stamps are food stamps, no matter how you call them. So this food stamp, electronic certificates, please forgive me, will be accepted as payment for some basic foods. The concept is not new in general, but very new to Russia. This shows how Russian government established social programs to help Russian population. It is assumed that the food certificates will provide address support to poor families. Well, this initiative sends me to February 21st, when Vladimir Putin announced that Russian government is to increase social support programs. That makes sense. But this gets very strange here. For the past decade, Vladimir Putin has been selling us this idea how great and efficient Russian government been in eliminating poverty in Russia. And now, all of a sudden, they introduce food stamps, so some folks can afford at least some basic foods. Yet, Putin, in the very same speech, said that the Russian economy, despite all the sanctions and pressure from the West, is doing great. How is this possible? Two concepts, doing great and food stamps, they don't mix together. Ha! Got it. Perhaps they consider Russian people not part of Russian economy. Or perhaps they consider introducing food stamps is a sign of mighty powerful economy. Must be one of those two. Moving on now. Russia hits a record shortage of job applicants. For the past 10 months, I've been telling along that Russia is going through the exodus. Many professionals, mostly middle-aged and young males, have left Russia and their families are following them. According to some experts, in the period from February to September, around 1 million Russians have left the country permanently, and until September, till now, 2 more million have joined them. I am personally seeing tens of thousands of Russians in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, because I am one of them. I also have left. And in neighboring Kazakhstan, which is only 20 minutes by car from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, there are hundreds of thousands of Russians. I know, I'm seeing them with my own eyes. But who am I and what do I know? Many Russian politicians have said multiple times, on public, no worries. Most of those who had left, they already returned. No problem, no worries, carnival. But statistics just came out and you can't really argue with statistics. Can you? In the fourth quarter of 2022, there were 2.5 vacancies for every unemployed Russian. And this is the highest number since 2005. This shows you that me and other experts, we have been too soft in our estimations of real exodus. It's much bigger than we expected. This is incredibly dangerous for Russian economy and extremely sad for Russia, the country. Moving on now, Russian government wages war on statistics. And speaking of statistics, you can't argue with statistics. You can cook statistics a bit, you can tweak it. In Russia, we call it, you can be creative with statistics. But just a little bit, not much. If it's cooked much, it becomes too obvious and not trustworthy. Well, statistics in Russia is not the friend of Russian government. Plain and simple. Because statistics show you the real situation in the country. Just like in the previous example, you can lie how many people returned to Russia after leaving, but you can't argue with statistics. Because statistics They don't lie. What do you do when unfavorable statistics come out? Plain and simple. You make such statistics confidential. You hide it from the public eye. And no, I am not joking now. Russian parliament just approved an existing law amendment that gives Russian government the right to establish the specifics of access to official statistical information, including the temporary suspension of its provision and dissemination. I told you many times that Russian government is absolutely genius. They come up with such simple and elegant yet effective solutions. Data doesn't look favorable, just make it confidential. Oh, that data belongs to taxpayers? Who cares about the taxpayers? The information is simply secret, and if someone dares to release it, you throw them to jail. Way to go, Russian government. One big question I have left unanswered is why regular people don't protest against that? Why they think that they have no right to access data of their own country. By the way, if you found what I've just said interesting and valuable, please consider hitting the like button and help me spread the message by making reposts in your social media accounts. And please keep on coming back, because I do this meanwhile in Russia updates on regular basis now. Moving on. Russians pay higher prices for children's goods and make fewer purchases trying to cut expenses. Some more statistics for you, while it's still possible to get them. Enjoy the statistical supplies while they last. Since the beginning of 2023, due to rising prices, Russians have been spending 17% more on same children's goods. At the same time, number of purchases fell. Specialty retailers have already experienced the reduction in number of transactions in their stores. The decline in demand for baby food is especially noticeable, which is associated not only with the desires of customers to cut costs, but also with the decreased birth rate. To me, these are the signs of two problems. First, economic problem. The inflation is rising. Obviously, people spend more for the same goods. And second, the decline in birth rate. Do I need to go further? This is a tragedy for Russia and for everyone. Moving on. Russians consider buying expired foods. More statistics. Statistics galore today. Well, I actually like statistics. I am economist after all. According to a survey done by National Agency for Financial Research, 67% of Russians are ready to buy food with expiring best used before date. Only 28% of Russians are not ready to buy such food under any circumstances. 81% of Russians do not throw away products while they expired. I'm pretty sure that 81% of Russians are not doing it because they don't have enough money. They're just doing it for the sake of it, you know. Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, said that the economy is doing great, and he said it no later than February 21st, a very recent date. All good, plenty of money for everyone. Expiring food? Oh, forget about that. Economy is doing great. Food stamps? Oh, nonsense. We don't have those food stamps. We have electronic certificates. It's the sign that Russia is in the 21st century. Electronic certificates. High tech. Startups, you know. All good. Moving on. And the last but not least, oil and natural revenue data. I guess more statistics. Russia's revenues of oil and natural gas exports in January collapsed on a year-to-year basis by 38%. Data according to the International Energy Agency that I actually have complete trust in. Going back to that speech made on February 21st when Vladimir Putin said Russian economy is doing great despite all the sanctions and the pressure from abroad. Well, I'm thinking perhaps there are two Russias in his world, and perhaps he was talking about different Russia, not the Russia that, I used to live in. Because minus 38% in oil and gas revenues in 1 month, it's not good economy. Far from good. That's actually a very grim number for the economy. Even a little worse than I had expected. But Russians, don't fret too much about that, because we all know that everything is going according to the plan. Putin's plan.